Yo, what is up, bros? Modz here today, and I'm gonna bring you a new gearing guide. This guide is for a Season 2 experience farming monk. This is absolutely the best way to get experience per hour, and this gear is min-max. Not only to allow you clear Gritter 37 plus efficiently in 5 minutes or less, but also get the most experience per hour, which you will be getting upwards of 40 billion plus. And you're like, what the fuck? 40 billion plus experience per hour? How is that happening? In patch 2.1.2, Blizzard changed the monster kills gain experience affix and now it's being multiplied by game difficulty. But subsequently, when they made this change, what also happened is gear that has increased bonus experience is also being multiplied by game difficulty. So instead of adding instead of being additive game difficulty, it's being multiplicative game difficulty. So that kind of inspired the set. I have another YouTube video on how you do that 40 billion plus experience per hour thing. I'll link that in the description. But regardless, besides the point, this is for the Season 2 monk. So a core part of this build, you're going to be playing it's kind of a support build or a support role. But via playing the support role, you're also going to be doing quite a bit of damage. And by quite a bit of damage, I mean every single time any target dies that has exploding palm applied to it, it's going to be doing 1.5 billion damage plus for every single explosion that's get changed by the new Gundgo gear. So anyways, in terms of spec, you're going to want to do Cyclone Strike with Implosion. This increases the grab radius, so more mobs get grouped up. More mobs, more explosions, more experience. Second thing is going to be Dashing Strike for your mobility. You're going to be using Blinding Speed for the 40% increased chance to dodge for every 4 seconds. And since this is the CDR-oriented build, you'll pretty much always be able to keep that buff active. I just said but. Whoops. Way of the Falling Star is also a good alternative for increased efficiency if your group's like super geared. Epiphany for Desert Shroud for the straight up 50% damage reduction. Also, this is going to be your source of regeneration. If you notice this build, it's a non-generator build. So all your spirit comes from active skills and passives. Exploding Palm and Pending Doom. The reason why you're using Exploding Palm Pending Doom will not really be that it's cold based because of its effect. It does 6,305% weapon damage as cold when a target dies, and this is non-discriminate, so it doesn't matter if the target has 1 health or if it has 1 trillion health. Exploding Palm always does the same damage, and that damage is based off the main hand weapon damage range of your main hand weapon only. It doesn't like alternate, it's always your main hand. So whatever weapon that has the highest damage range in your main hand, that's where you're going to put there. So Exploding Palm. So notice it's like more than double the damage of the normal Exploding Palm EP blast when it goes off. The next thing you're using is Blinding Flash Replenishing Light. Not only this, so like when you group up the mobs to CC them for your group, and you're applying Exploding Palm, you pop the Blinding Flash to like kind of crowd control and make sure they don't run off. Also, it gives you more spirit because you're not using a generator, so you need as much spirit regen as possible. And the last but not least is Mystic Ally for Air Ally. This is going to be in your build until you get enough cooldown reduction to support not using it. Usually once you get like over 70% cooldown reduction on your character sheet, you will be able to drop Mystic Ally. But you are using Mystic Ally for the 100 spirit on activation effect and the 4 passive spirit regen per second. Once you get up to like that higher CDR mark, which is around like 70% cooldown reduction, you will be swapping to like Mantra Conviction with Annihilation. This will give your entire group more damage done and also increase your movement speed or mobility. So increase your efficiency. Also, you can use Mantra of Healing. It provides a little shield effect. It also increases your life regen. And the rune that you'll be using is Circular Breathing for increased spirit regen. Thus, because you don't have a generator, so you're 100% dependent on your skills and your passives to regenerate your spirit. In terms of passives now, I prefer Sixth Sense. It's just a straight up damage reduction of non-physical damage. If you're having spirit problems, you can use Chant of Resonance for the 4 spirit generation. If you're using a mantra, it also reduces activation effect. So you could like grant more shields with your Mantra of Healing. Also, you're playing hardcore, near-death experience. So if you're doing hardcore, you definitely want near-death experience for this build. So that's a skill that you swap out if you're on hardcore. You'd swap out like Sixth Sense for near-death experience. Beacon of Udar for the cooldown reduction. Exalted Soul for the increased spirit and the regeneration, and then Harmony for your defensive skills. 40% of your secondary stacking resist will go to your main resist. Now, we're going to go toward our build. I'm going to be posting something in the info section that's a link to Diablo fans that's really in-depth about like the stat allocation on each piece of gear. So I'm not going to go into that too heavily because you'll just go there and there's a nice random guide. But anyways, one thing that's very, very important is the main hand weapon damage range. So weapon damage range is not confused with weapon DPS. Weapon DPS is 27, 21.6. But what's important is the weapon damage range. 1679 to 2209, that is what all your skills are scaling off of. So when it says 6,300% weapon damage, that is not based off weapon damage or DPS, it's based off the weapon damage range. So whatever weapon has the highest weapon damage range, you want to put that in your main hand because that's what EP scales off of. It always scales off your main hand weapon. So very, very important. So very, very, very important there. Like I said, this build is CDR dependent. So there's a couple key parts that you really want to make use of. That's Born's crafted set for the 10% cooldown reduction, and then also bonus experience gain. That's how you're getting so much experience per hour. Bonus experience is being affected by, or bonus experience percent is being affected kind of like in a buggy manner when you're in greater risks, and it's not supposed to be. So make sure you got your Born's 2-piece for the CDR for the bonus experience. Make sure your weapon has extremely high damage range. More damage range, the better. You can craft ancient weapons. It's like ideal stats would be like damage range, 10% damage increase, 10% cooldown reduction, and then like a socket, and then your secondaries like life after kill and bonus experience. So make sure you craft up your Born's 2-piece. It's a crafted set. Next item that's super, super important to this build is this fist. I call it the Fist Azumajuki. What's important on it? Not so much the weapon damage range because it's based off your main hand only. So make sure whatever your main hand has the most damage. This fist is kind of like a stat stick mostly. So what you're looking for is exploding palm on death explosion damage increase. You want that to be as close to 100% as possible. You want a socket. You want the 10% cooldown reduction on it. You want 10% damage. Mine's not perfect, but hey, it gets the job done. Second piece of gear that's really important to the build is the Gundgo gear. You want the cold elemental damage on it, and the most important part of this is the exploding palm on death explosion applies exploding palm. So when your main target of exploding palm dies, that's non-discriminate based off the mob health, dies, it's going to apply exploding palm to everything around there. It's going to be this huge explosion that's going to chain, and it does a massive amount of damage. So like when you're in the group, all you do is you run up to the mobs, you cycle and strike them up, you apply your exploding palm, and then you allow your group members to like trigger the effect, and then everything just dies around it. So Gundgo gear. Second thing that you want is your Sun Wuku set. So your Sun Wuku set, every single time you cast from your spenders, like Exploding Palm or Cyclone Strike, it causes an enemy to spawn that does 1,000% weapon damage as your top elemental damage type. So since we have Holy, or since we have cold damage on our bracers at the elemental damage affix, it's going to proc as cold. This also procs our Bane of the Trapped. So this gem right here, Bane of the Trapped, one at rank 25, it does proc itself, but also the Sun Wuku clone itself procs a Bane of the Trapped. And then whenever that clone goes off, it increases the damage of all your spenders by 500% for 3 seconds. So this is why we're using a non-gen build, is because we're trying to get the highest uptime on that 4-piece bonus. So in terms of gambling, when you get on your monk, so you just started season 2, always start out with gambling, gloves, shoulders, helmet, and then you like do your filler slots later on. And then for stat party, there it is, dex, crit chance, crit damage, cooldown reduction, secondary stacking resist, and monster kills gain experience because that scales with difficulty now. Then your shoulders, dex fit, all resist, cooldown reduction, monster kills gain experience, chill on hit. I guess better than chill on hit would be like healing glow bonus for a little bit more survivability. And this is where your setup can kind of vary. So like what item you have in your helm, the Orc's Crown is by far the best because it doubles, or it can up to double the effectiveness of the gem socket in there, which will be a ruby in this case because we're going to be doing experience farming. An alternative would be going with the Sun Wuku crown. So you just put your Sun Wuku crown on and then pretty much any amulet at all. So that would be alternative setup. Leorc's crown is kind of rare, and the same thing with a Sun Wuku amulet. So same exact thing, you just sock your ruby into there like any ruby. Well, actually you'd want to be at max tier ruby, but that's like the kind of like one of the build variants. For stat priority on your helmet, dex, vit, crit chance, and like definitely a socket, 100% need your socket, and then your secondary stacking is this. Now for your amulet, I usually like dex, crit chance, crit damage, socket, and then make sure you have your secondaries this. If you have a low dex roll and it rolls with like base crit chance, crit damage, you'll roll off the dexterity roll for increased cooldown reduction. And that is pretty much it in terms of gear. Oh yeah, one more important thing that's crafted. So make sure you craft your cane set for the experience bonus. Stat allocation will be in the info section like I said. And make sure you get your Hellfire Ring. Hellfire Ring is crafted. And it's done by doing Uber bosses. You get the plan in Act 2. So if you go to like Act 2, the hidden camp, you go to like this little guy over here. His name is Squirt the Peddler. He's pretty much a gangster. You go talk to him, and then he has like a plan. You buy it for like 5 million gold. I already bought it, so it's not there anymore. That's like the old one. You don't want this one. You want the one that has orange text. So it costs 5 million gold. You go like kill the key wardens in Act 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go do like the Uber bosses that are located in Act 1. And you just like go to New Tristram, and it's in the Heretic's abode, like over here in the corner. It's like one if you do want a Hellfire ring, they just like pop this thing open. That's where you do Uber bosses. In place of the Hellfire ring, you always use the Leoric Signet. It does have the stat increase bonus experience gain on it, but it's just not as high as Hellfire ring. Like max roll is 30%, Hellfire ring is 45%. So if you're really trying to min-max your experience, definitely 100% the Hellfire ring all day, any day. Now in terms of gems, what are you going to be doing with gems? I want to say mandatory gems for this build is the Gizzard. The increased life regen on this is absolutely insane. It's going to allow you to sustain yourself. Then also the secondary effect, after not taking damage for 4 seconds, you gain a 200% shield based off your life percent, and a lot of your primary stats will have life regen on them. Another cool thing about this gem is that even if you don't break the shield, it auto refreshes itself. So like if you have enough stats, you'll just permanently like have your shield on yourself, and you just won't take any damage. What's really cool, and that's a season 2 exclusive item, so you won't be able to have this on if you play non-seasons. The second thing you want is an Esoterics alteration. It reduces your non-physical damage done, and when you go below half-life, increase your resist by up to 75%. Your final gem would be a Bane of the Trap, but I don't have a sock right now, so those two are like kind of mandatory. Bane of the Trap is whatever. Most of the time, other people in your group will be running it, so you don't necessarily need to run it because you already get the effect of it. Another gem that is really, really good to use if you have a third socket, which you eventually want to have, is this Toxin gem. It's going to increase the damage done to the mobs by 10% for everyone in your group. Every single person in your group will get that bonus. Now let's go to Paragon Point allocation. So with your Paragon Points, what do you want to do? Always max out movement speed. If you have under 400% or 400k life, put Vitality in. If you have over that, Dexterity. Offensive, cooldown reduction since it's a CR dependent build. Crit chance if you're under 40%. If you're over 40%, do crit damage first, then crit chance. Attack speed, it is good because it increases the rate in which you apply Exploding Palm, but you don't really need it for this build. For defensive, all resist armor for the straight up damage reduction. Life percent is good for your third Paragon Point allocation, and life regen last. Utility points, always resource cost reduction, area damage, life on hit, then gold find. So how are you going to be playing this monk? That is a question. It's like I said, it's a support role, but you do a lot of damage. So what you're going to be doing in group play, you want to get in a 4-player group when you're doing experience farming because you get the strength and numbers buff. The strength and numbers buff gives you a 10% increase per person that's in range to your experience gain. So make sure you're in a 4-player group. Make sure you're doing like you can do greater of 30 plus, and you'll get tons of experience. Not 30 billion or 40 billion plus. 40 billion plus is kind of like exclusive to doing greater of 36 or 37 efficiently. When I mean efficiently, I mean less than like 5 minutes per clear. So what you're gonna be doing in the group, you're basically just gonna like go into the mobs, and this is on freaking normal mode. Whoops, that was kind of easy. You might want to change the difficulty. Mistakes are made. I was farming white items for this. I forgot to increase the difficulty. Whoops. Let's go do adventure mode. T6. If the game allows us. I don't think it's gonna go. It might go. Maybe. Please. Okay, here it goes. So anyways, what you're going to do is basically just run up to mobs. You're going to Cyclone Strike. You're going to blind them. You're going to apply your Sweating Palm. And then they're just going to explode. That's all you're going to do. And that's going to be your job in Greaterous. You're just going to run around, grab mobs, and just explode them up. Probably like best group composition would be like Monk, Double Demon Hunter, and then insert miscellaneous class. Barbs are good, Witch Doctors are good. You could run Wizards if you want. So anyways, that is the Season 2 Cold Exploding Palm Monk Guide for the experience set. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Like I said, if you want the written guide, it'll be a link in the profile. There'll also be a link to my character profile, so if you want to copy the gear there. Anyways, happy hunting in Season 2. Peace out, bros. And hopefully you guys learned something. Modz out.